All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Great to be here with you today. Excited because we are doing our second installment of the Unsolved Health Mysteries. I'm here with Kacie here today. She's been brave enough to submit one of her labs. It's called the Candida Metabolic Vitamins Test, also called the Organic Acids Test. I haven't met Kacie necessarily before. She's going to be able to share her story of what she's dealing with, and then we're going to read the lab. We're going to see if it correlates in any way. Then, of course, Kacie's going to leave with a plan as to how to rebalance her body. So without further ado, let's get into today's show. Welcome, Kacie. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to do what's part of our lab health series, which is essentially a condensed form of a consultation and a lab results reading along with the plan. So we do this every day inside of our practice for well over, I would say, 50,000 people or so a year run their labs or so through Equilife. Our job is not to just share the numbers, but actually understand the story behind the numbers. And obviously, that's why we want to hear from you and then develop a plan that goes through the de-stress protocol that we teach inside of the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute and also on in the book, The Rain Barrel Effect. So why don't we get started with hearing a little bit about you, your background, maybe some challenges that you've been dealing with.
Yeah, so just briefly kind of going back to when I was a child, from the age of 10 months until I was 3 years old, I was on Bactrim for kidney reflux, so the antibiotic. All growing up in my childhood, I had allergies, asthma, eczema, mysterious skin rashes that no one really could tie down, like what was it? Just prescribed tons of creams and things. Experienced a lot of headaches, was on ibuprofen basically daily, multiple times a day, even for most of my time growing up. And then I would say about a year and a half ago, beginning of 2024, I started having really bad joint pain. Went to many doctors and they told me, aside from CRP being a little elevated, everything is normal, nothing's wrong with you. But I just knew like something's off, something's not right. It's not just stress like you're telling me. It's not just in my head. So that's when in about June of 2024, I left my rheumatology doctor who told me that I had seronegative rheumatoid arthritis and the course of treatment would be immunosuppressants for the rest of my life, steroids, and just basically that things were not going to get better. They were just going to get worse if not. I left the office feeling completely defeated as a 27-year-old mom of two and wife. I was like, there has to be more, like this can't be the end of it. So I left and did my research. In about June of last year, I started working with a naturopathic doctor, and I really made a lot of changes in like my diet, lifestyle, and pain improved, inflammation improved. But even now, finishing that up in March, I know there's a lot more work that needs to be done. And I discovered you, Dr. Cabral, and your podcast and all the content you put out there towards the end of last year. And that's where I learned, like, I guess the power of functional medicine. And I realized that there is more than just making changes that you think are healthy. There is data that can be shown from getting this insight into your own body so that you can address the root cause and figure out what's going on and how to address that. So yeah, I'm grateful to be here now. I guess my biggest symptoms are joint pain, fatigue, exhaustion. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm still tired, even if I sleep really well. Typically I do have a really hard time at night winding down. It's hard for me to go to sleep before like midnight. I deal with eczema, still some skin rashes, a lot of anxiety. I've been having tons of anxiety for most of my life. I remember that even as a child, before I even had a reason to be anxious, it felt like. But yeah, and then digestive issues, bloating. Honestly, overall, I just don't feel well. And that's,
all right.
I feel like I have every symptom in the book.
Yeah, I totally get it. I understand. I used to be there myself. I had the autoimmune issues. I had the skin issues. And so I totally understand where you're coming from. And that's tough because so many kids, they obviously don't know that this often starts with using antibiotics during childhood. And what that does is it ruins our innate microbiome, the healthy gut bacteria that we should have there. And the nice thing is, though, it can be rebalanced. And so we can't go back in time and change those things. But what we can do is we can rebalance it today. And I'm going to pull up your Candida Metabolic and Vitamins Test here today. This is one of the labs that Equilife specializes in, our practice specializes in. And essentially, it's a simple urine-based test. Both my daughters have run it. My wife has run it. I always run it. We do this every year just to hopefully make sure that everything's good. And not everything has to be perfect. And so as I pull this up and I share it with you now, when I first looked at this, because I just opened it before our consult here today that we're going to, is that I looked at it and I said, okay, this is probably someone who has worked on their gut before. And the reason I say that is that there's a lot that looks like if you were dealing with issues in the past that you've improved a lot. Okay. It's just not all the way there yet. That's the nice thing, is because when I'm going through your lab, what do I see? Well, I see 2 elevated markers for Candida and yeast. So one of it's Aspergillus and the other is Arabinose. So those are 2 markers for Candida and or mold. I don't know if you've done any mycotoxins testing in the past, but there could be some mold exposure. We can work on that without even testing for it if you'd like, or you can always run the mold mycotoxins test. All these labs are at stephencabral.com/shop. That just takes you over to Equilife, and you can look at the labs and see if it's the right fit for you. You can work with your local naturopathic doctor. You can work with an integrative health practitioner, or of course, you can get it right online at Equilife, and my team and I can work with you. So the next thing that I do see, though, is there's a little bit of an imbalance in the healthy gut bacteria, but nothing major, like nothing that I would really call out at. The one that I call out is number 17 on this lab, and it's called 4-Cresol, or Clostridium difficile. And why that's important is that this affects so much of not just the bloating and the gas and the microbiome, but it actually affects anxiety, overwhelm, and how dopamine converts to norepinephrine. So dopamine can be increased and then poorly convert and get out of the body, so it builds up, especially if you have a COMT genetic-based mutation. That's why genetics aren't the end-all be-all. But if you have the genetic mutation, the SNP, right, the single nucleotide polymorphism, and you have C. diff, then these things really start to compound. All right, so without a doubt, you've done a lot of great work on your gut. There's more to do. That's essentially it. There's more to do. We're not all the way there yet. And even with the best program, there's sometimes just more to do. I don't know how long the gut healing protocol you did was, but ours is 12 weeks. It's very thorough. And then you also heal and seal the gut wall with the CBO finisher. Now, these things are very straightforward to do, but we're certainly going to be doing that. And then we'll talk about that in a moment. All right. So next up on page 2 is an elevation in glycolic acid, a minor elevation in glyceric acid, and oxalic acid. These are all oxalates. So let's talk about that for a moment. A lot of people see elevated oxalates on their OAT or their Candida Metabolic and Vitamins Test. But we have to understand is that a lot of people say, well, I don't eat that much chocolate or soy or what are the other big ones? Spinach, right? Or rhubarb or almonds. These are some of the bigger ones with oxalates. The problem is that yeast Candida, while it's munching on sugar, part of its fermentation process oxidizes, and what's given off is oxalic acid. And so oxalic acid can be elevated without eating any high oxalate foods. It can be elevated because of low magnesium, low B6, or yeast and Candida. So don't always think it's a food oxalate thing. Sometimes it is, but I just wanted to share that with you as well.
Okay, helpful.
It also means that there might be even more yeast Candida that we're not necessarily seeing on this lab. That's what it could also be pointed to. All right, when we look at the mitochondrial markers, we have 1 elevated succinic acid, and we have 2 on the lower side, which is oxoglutaric acid and aconitic acid. Now, why this is important to look at is just shows there's some mitochondrial stress. Is it massive? No, but certainly there's some mitochondrial stress. The succinic acid being elevated can actually mean that there might be some exposure to glyphosate or pesticides, herbicides, and other environmental toxins too. So that's sometimes we see the succinic acid elevated, and part of it, too, being low is you literally might be exhausted. you might not have enough of the ATP production that we need. And let's keep going through the lab and we'll see if that's the case.
Okay.
All right. So now we move on to neurotransmitter metabolites. And we see that you have good dopamine production, but you do have low norepinephrine. And so there's the imbalance. And as we talked about that a little bit earlier, that imbalance can be because of that Clostridium difficile. So it's not necessarily about trying to push norepinephrine to a greater degree. It's allowing dopamine to flow freely to norepinephrine and epinephrine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's helpful.
Okay. And so, the way to do that, again, the underlying root cause is to rebalance the gut, to get rid of that C. diff. All right. So this was a big one. In your ketone and fatty acid oxidation, we have 4 out of 8 elevated. Okay, so 50% of them are elevated, essentially. Or 4 out of 7. Why this matters is that there is either an imbalance in the gut bacteria with this then imbalance of short-chain fatty acids. You're fasting for too long, creating greater stress in the body, oxidative stress, or you're on too low a carb diet for the levels of stress that you have right now. I don't know which one of those it is, but maybe you do. Which one do you think it is?
So it could be, for a really long time, I was on a very low carb diet. I cut out all gluten, grains, fruit, everything, for a very long time. So maybe that.
This is more within the 72 hours of taking this lab.
Oh.
So it's either low blood sugar, fasting too long, too low carb, or it could be, if those aren't happening, then it's most likely from the gut bacterial imbalance.
Yeah, I don't think it's any of those.
Okay.
No.
So that's good to know. So again, we keep pointing back to the gut. And that's why, even though on the first page, we really only saw like 3.5 elevated, there seems to be much more, which makes sense with autoimmune issues, that there's an imbalance in the gut. All right, let's go over your vitamins and minerals. We see B12 is fine. We see B6 is fine. I'll ask you about that because it's never fine unless you're supplementing. B5 is a little on the higher side, but that's from oftentimes supplementation. Same for B2, or B2 can be mitochondrial-based stress. Vitamin C is okay. It's a little on the lower side. CoQ10 is good. NAC, well, we'll see if that matters. We'll look at glutathione in just a moment. Biotin's a little low. So with strong B vitamin levels, are you supplementing with a B vitamin?
Yes, I've been taking a B complex for a while.
Okay.
Probably.
So the B complex you're taking is adequate. It's providing your body with the B vitamins that you need. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm actually taking the Equilife one.
That's fantastic. I did not know that. So that's great. All right, let's look at glutathione on the next page. Let's look at toxicity. So glutathione is within range, but it's high normal. So that does mean that there is a greater stress in the body. And if we look right below it for methylation and toxic exposure, it's a 2.6 when we don't want to be above really a 1.5. So that absolutely means that you're getting enough methylated Bs, right? You're getting your trimethylglycine, your methylcobalamin, your methylfolate, right? All the methyls. So you're good. Okay. So what's happening then is that there's still a toxic exposure. So we're certainly going to do a 21-day functional medicine detox. We're going to try to do it with the fasting days, and then we're going to move into the gut healing protocol. Whatever is in there, we want to move out. So that's what we're going to work on. All right, we're on the last page. All of your amino acids look good, which is great. And your phosphoric acid actually looks good, and not everybody's does. So that means probably pretty adequate calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D3. Now, this test doesn't measure those, but that can be a proxy sometimes for it. So one of the things that we love is to be able to say, okay, if we were to run one more lab, what would we look at? Based on your symptoms, we're going to do an elimination diet. We could do a food sensitivity test to remove a few others, but maybe we'll just remove the main ones at first, right? For the CBO protocol, which has the sensitive gut guide. The stress, mood, and metabolism would be great to look at your cortisol levels and overall estrogen, progesterone, which could help with sleep and a lot of other factors, your thyroid. But I don't know if we need to do that next. And then we have the mycotoxins test to look at mold. And so those are my next 3 recommendations. However, what I want to do is provide you with a protocol to begin with. And then maybe if we still need to get more results based on maybe it's energy, if gut's good, meaning like the bloating's gone and the joint pain's really gone. Okay, let's look at the stress, mood, and metabolism test in about 12 to 16 weeks. Then let's say why Kacie's better now in terms of digestion and leaky gut and inflammation, joint pain, but her energy is still not where it should be. Okay, we'll run the stress, mood, and metabolism at that time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So based on your lab, what I would say is that we're going to do the 21-day detox to move through whatever toxicities may be there. This helps open up drainage pathways. And if you've read the rain barrel effect, this was actually created for people with autoimmune issues.
Yes.
And it worked so exceptionally well that I just started using it with everyone in our practice. And instead of 21 days, we simply went down to 7 days after your first 21 day. And it's what we do, to current time. So this is how we empty the rain barrel. So we're going to do that. You may have done it in the past. That's how we're going to start our program. And then we're going to go into the full 12-week CBO protocol, unless you've done it before. Have you done the 12-week CBO protocol?
I have not, but I was planning to. I did the 21-day detox. So
Great.
I'm ready for it.
All right. So we go from that. Then we go into the 12-week CBO protocol. And that's for the gut healing. So that's 3 supplements a day. It's not a big deal. It's a biofilm disruptor. It is it's Saccharomyces boulardii the first month. I won't go through the whole thing, but that helps push out a lot of the pathogenic yeast. And then we build up the bacteria slowly in the gut to be exactly what should be there, right? And then after that, we have an antimicrobial, which helps to kill the yeast and the Candida and all of those things. So it works really well. We've been doing this now for many, many years, and this protocol does work. After that, at the 12 weeks, or you might decide to start it sooner, and you're welcome to. Not everybody is used to taking nutritional supplements, so I don't always recommend it right away. It's called the CBO Finisher. It's the Healthy Gut Support, which contains the glutamine and the zinc carnosine, the aloe vera, all of the things that seal the gut wall. So we start to get rid of the leaky gut. So for you, I wouldn't mind if you started that in month 2. You could start it sooner. And you're going to do that for 2 to 3 months. Don't worry about the probiotic. That's included with the CBO protocol, but the Healthy Gut Support. You can start it right away after 4 weeks. Okay.
Awesome.
We're going to do the elimination diet. It's already taken care of for you in the CBO protocol. It's basically an autoimmune paleo diet for you to start. We'll work the grains back in if we even want any grains in your diet after 21 to 28 days, but it'll be a variable because we'll say, okay, the joint pain's greatly decreased. However, if we add back in the grains, it starts to kick up a little bit after 3 days. All right. Well, right now, grains for you are not your best friend. No problem. We can use Japanese yams, sweet potatoes, other good carbs for you as well.
Okay.
Beets, those can be higher in oxalates, but again, I don't think you have an oxalate issue from foods. I think it's most likely from the yeast, the Candida overgrowth. But of course, we can prove that by working through a process. Okay, so the next part, though, is we need to improve your sleep. It's so difficult to rebalance your immune system if you're not getting good quality sleep. So I like people to track their sleep. I like people to use an Oura Ring, a Whoop strap, an Apple Watch, whatever you want, but I want the people to track it. And what I'd like you to do is just put it on airplane mode overnight. That's basically it. So there's none of the Wi-Fi. You can turn the Bluetooth off. And so what we're shooting for, no, it's not going to happen overnight, but we want 2 hours of REM sleep for the mind. And we essentially want 75 minutes or more for the body, and that's deep sleep. We want to get you in bed 8.5 hours before you have to wake up. 9 would be even better. Because most people, in order to get 8 hours sleep, they need to be in bed about 9 hours. It's challenging. I know you have 2 kids. I have 2 kids. I totally get it. Not every night's perfect. All I'm asking for is basically 9 out of 10 good days. One day is not a good day. No big deal. 9 out of 10 days will get you to your goals without a doubt. Then after that, we need to do all of the things that help with good sleep. So the 3-2-1 sleep formula, 3 hours before bed, no food, or longer, because I definitely want, with autoimmune issues, I want you on a 14 to 16 hour fast. So dinner stops around 6 p.m. at night, and then there's no eating. If we do 14 hours, it's 8 a.m. If we do 16 hours, it's 10 a.m. Ideally, I would like you at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and then around, or 1:30 p.m., and then 5:30 for dinner. That's an ideal world. I know with the family, it's not always perfect. There's practices, there's school, there's all the different things, but you do your best so that we get a full 16 hours to create more autophagy. And I like using a product upon waking called proteolytic enzymes for anybody with autoimmune issues. 2 to 4 capsules upon waking. We're going to do that with your other enzymes, your chlorophyll. And then for sleep, I keep bypassing sleep. We'll use what we need. Adrenal soothe at dinner, full spectrum magnesium at dinner, and probably 2 droppers of liquid melatonin before bed.
Okay. Is that right before bed, the melatonin?
Yes, 30 minutes before bed.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you'll use your blue blockers. You'll do some breath work, resonance breathing. I don't even recommend box breathing. Recommend something just really relaxing. So resonance breathing is basically watch the circle expand, breathe in, exhale, watch the circle close. Like just doing 2 to 3 minutes of that is amazing. Reading a real book, putting on blue blockers, taking an Epsom salt bath an hour and a half, 2 hours before bed, whatever ritual and routine you want to create to get into your sleep routine is ideal.
Awesome.
Those are the main ones. You're going to use daily nutritional support, or if you don't like to do smoothies, that's fine. You could do the activated B complex. The activated multivitamin. And do you do a multi right now, or DNS plus the B vitamin, or just the B vitamin?
I do the DNS plus the B vitamin.
Okay. So we need to maintain that because we already know your levels are great with that. So
Okay.
we're good with that, and that'll be good. The only other one we might want to add in, and then you can ask me any questions you have. Your CoQ10 was great. So I'm not going to, you're only 27 years old. You don't need to do a lot of mitochondrial support. We just need to literally work on de-stress. And so we don't need to do a lot of hard workouts, but we'd love to do sauna, 20, 30 minutes, as many days as possible. And walking 7,500 steps to 10,000 steps a day would be amazing. And we might use liposomal glutathione for the first 6 weeks. And that is because you have elevated toxic exposure, although we're going to get it with the first 21 days of the detox. So that one's going to be optional, and that would be 1 teaspoon at dinner of the liposomal glutathione.
Okay. Would you start
5
that
mL.
now or wait till after CBO?
You can. Yeah, you can start it now because you did your 21-day detox. So
Okay.
that would be kind of, that's an added optional, add-on that's icing on the cake, but this is a great place for you to start. So there's always more you can do, meaning like I could give you another half dozen great nutritional supplements, but we want to remember that the de-stress protocol is diet, exercise, stress reduction, tox removal, rest, emotional balance, scientifically backed supplements, and a success mindset. So we're not going to get it all just with supplements. Supplements just help to move the needle the fastest. That's my goal with that. And then we allow the lifestyle to catch up. Okay, if there are major stresses in your life, we need to start to work on those a little bit. We need to reframe them. We need to focus on what we do have in our life, the gratitude. And again, I know that's easier said than done sometimes, but it is something that we want to work on. And the last piece I'll leave it with, and then I want to open it up to a little bit of questions because maybe there's great supplements that you're using or great lifestyle that I'd love to hear about, is that our belief in whether we are going to heal is so important, especially when you've been dealing with this for so long, right? I dealt with mine through childhood, but I realized, there's actually an issue at 17. And then through my best years, supposedly your best years, right? My best years are hopefully to come. But from 17 to 27 was just devastating, how would you ever think you're going to get better as you get older? That doesn't make any sense, right? And so the quote by Emilie Cuyer is one that I love, which is, every day in every way, I'm becoming better and better. Every day in every way, I'm becoming better and better. And the power of auto-suggestion is the true placebo effect. But when you combine that with real scientifically proven things to do, you have the best of all worlds for the mind and the body.
Oh, for sure.
All right. So what questions do you have for me on your lab or on your program?
Yeah. So I'm curious about the toxic exposure that it said I have. Does that point to anything specific, or is it just kind of overall like, okay, there's something that needs detoxed? The most recent one you spoke about.
Yes, exactly. So that is number 59 on the Candida Metabolic Vitamins Test. And by the way, if you're enjoying this and you would like your lab read, you can apply at stephencabral.com/lab read. And it's any of the EqualLife lab tests. So literally any test you run, it's automatically going to come with a coaching call and a wellness plan for you. But I'm also happy to read that as well. And on this, it showed methylation issues and toxic exposure. We already know that you're getting plenty of methyl-based donors. The daily nutritional support or daily activated multi have a full methylated B complex. The activated B complex is another whole dosage of that, plus the trimethylglycine, which is a methyl donor. So you don't need any more than that. But what it's showing is that there is toxic exposure that could be environmental. The pesticides, like if you live on a golf course, people get exposure to pesticides. If you're not eating organic food, which I'm sure that you are, but it's any of these exposures to heavy metals, to other pathogens that we don't necessarily see. And this lab doesn't tell us that. It just tells us there is an exposure, which is why we start with the 21-day detox. And then I should say your CBO protocol is 12 weeks. If you don't want to run the mold mycotoxins test, which I understand, again, we get you the labs essentially at cost, but let's say you don't want to spend the $300 something on that mycotoxins test, which is another urine-based test. You can go right from the CBO protocol into the mold detox protocol. And that wouldn't be a bad idea for you. And so you could say, okay, whether there's mold or not, I'm going to work on it. Some people want to see if there's an exposure so that if it's happening in your house, you can help the whole family. And that's a possibility as well. Now, for some people, we have one spouse run it, the other one has it, the other doesn't. Okay, well, do they work in an office? They could be exposed to it there. One of my daughter's first schools had water damage. You literally walk in and you see a yellow drop ceiling. You're like, well, okay, our kids are being exposed to mold apparently every day. That's not something that you want to see, but it explains it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for testing at home?
Well, if you don't do the mold, you would do the heavy metal detox if you don't test for heavy metals. So the easiest way to test for heavy metals is to run the minerals and metals test. All of these are again at stephencabral.com/shop. And that'll just take you over to the labs page, or stephencabral.com/labs. It's a little outline of the labs. The mycotoxins test is to test for mold. The minerals and metals test is to test your mineral levels and your heavy metals.
Okay.
You can run both if you'd like, or you can do the protocols. And what I would say for you is if you think you've been exposed to mold, you'll do that directly after the CBO protocol because it works best then. Okay. And if you don't think that you were, then you'll simply go into the heavy metal detox next, which is great for autoimmune issues. Okay,
awesome. Perfect.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess the last one I had is I also ran a food sensitivity test recently. And I was just curious about like any sensitivities that show up. What is your thought process in terms of like if those ingredients show up in any of the supplements or protocols?
Well, let's just say like pea protein showed up high. We would eliminate the daily nutritional support and use the daily activated multivitamin instead.
Okay, gotcha. That was actually exactly what it was. So cool.
All right, because there's only a couple that would show up. Like there's an enzyme, in papaya called papain, right? And so it's like, well, it's mild. No, we're going to use the biofilm disruptor, like without a doubt. But if it's high, then we're causing more inflammation, and so we're going to eliminate it. No problem. Okay. We can use a different type of protein powder that isn't pea-based if we want. We're not going to do whey protein. Just because it can be a sensitivity with autoimmune issues. So that's out. We could do a rice-based, or we could do, something else if we wanted to, or again, not do a smoothie at all. And we have some fruit on the side. That's fine. And we use the daily activated multi. I wouldn't have an issue with that. We would eliminate it for 12 weeks, and then we might start to add it back in. Or if it's a really high sensitivity, we would eliminate it for 6 months.
Okay. And then the other one was I had a rice sensitivity at like a moderate level. And I know that is in some of the capsules. So
with the thing about that is that it is less than a half a kernel of a grain of rice. So there should be no sensitivity there at all. Like I would, my own family, I'd say, yeah, this is not an issue because what all the rice is in there is so that you don't have to use magnesium stearate. So the ingredients don't stick to each other for a multi ingredient. But we're talking, like I said, less than a grain of rice. So it's so small. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. So what I would do is I would move right into this plan. If there are other great products you've been using or you're working with a practitioner and they recommend them, you're welcome to keep those as well. Very few things are going to interfere with what we spoke about here today. Good anti-inflammatory diet, using intermittent fasting. You've done the 21-day detox. We're going to go into the 12-week CBO protocol. We'll start the healthy gut support right after the first 4 weeks, and we'll very specifically work on sleep. We need to get you improving your sleep. We'll track it. It won't happen overnight. We won't do high intensity workouts to create more inflammation, but we will do some walking, some body weight exercise, really work on the mindset. So doing all of this, I'm telling you right now, we help people overcome autoimmune issues in 3 to 6 months. And I really want the same for you. So just keep following up with the team. You get that follow-up running this lab. And of course, anybody who's interested in this type of work, you can find out exactly what we do. You can become a certified health coach yourself at integrativehealthpractitioner.org. And for anybody who would like to submit their lab to be read here live on our Health Mysteries based show, Health Mysteries Uncovered, because we're finding the underlying root causes, feel free to do so by going to stephencabral.com/lab-read. Thank you, Kacie, so much for joining me here today. Appreciate your time and wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.